Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know Michael, it's of course Michael Yehoshua, who is right now the CMO of Ystamp. And Michael and I have known each other for like a gazillion years, easily. And we could have actually chosen, I don't know, 10 topics to discuss today. Um, but something that we do love to banter about endlessly is the issue or the topic of Gartner's Magic Quadrant specifically. And Michael has got an amazing story to tell about like when to create your own category and when to run for the hills. And that's why I'm really excited to have you here with me. So thank you, Michael, for indulging me.
And thanks for having me, and happy to share my experiences, my mistakes. Hopefully, people learn from my mistakes and don't continue banging their head against the wall and trying to figure that out. But listen, I'm here to share insights, and let's get into it.
Yalla, let's do this. So I'm going to sort of like, if you ask me, and I'm asking myself right now, I can, the whole should I be paying for a Gartner subscription? And when should a startup start paying for a Gartner subscription and when you should stop? I think that up until around COVID, sort of around 2020, it was like the rite of passage. Sort of like you raise enough money or you're on the path to raising enough money, you pay for a Gartner subscription. And, you certainly can't live for a long time or run your company for a long time without having the Gartner subscription. And this used to annoy the hell out of me because I frankly think that they're, overpriced and sort of like it's just paying sort of like money in order to join the game here, right? And then something happened in 2020 and startups sort of like started to say, okay, maybe we don't need to pay Gartner for, this ridiculous amount of money for the subscription. Maybe we can live without it. Maybe our startup will succeed without Gartner. And lo and behold, would you imagine plenty of startups succeeded without being featured on Gartner's Magic Quadrant. Now, tell me, Michael, why? Why would a startup need today in 2025 with everything that's available to them? Why would they need to pay for, Gartner?
Okay, so that's a very, very good question you ask. Gartner is, well, they're the most, I think they're the biggest analyst company, and that's probably why we're picking on them. They're not the only one, but Gartner really helps companies to get recognized. Now, I've spoken to many security leaders over the years, and they also don't like Gartner in the same way that we don't like paying Gartner. However, many of those security professionals, we're talking CISOs, we're talking head of IT, we're talking like really senior people, they're very busy. They don't have time to evaluate solutions. And the last thing they want to do is get on a demo with one of your SDRs. Okay. They don't want that.
Obviously,
So they're
okay.
looking for some sort of shortcut. So what do? They go and they call the biggest analyst company that they know of, right? Because all of us, we get paid to say that our company is the best in the world and we're better against all the competition, blah, blah, blah. Analysts and third parties, they don't have to lie on your behalf. They will
Yeah,
tell
but
you
if you're paying them money, they're going to be nicer to you.
that's true. That's true. But
Okay, so
what happens is they go out and they ask those companies, they ask those analysts rather, listen, I need right now a solution in X, Y, and Z. Who are the top three players that I should consider? And by you being on top of mind with those analysts, if that analyst says, oh, I want you to try out this company, and that one, and you are one of those top three, you have a much higher chance of getting business.
but how is that still valid? I understand that, but how is that still valid when you have peer review sites? You have influencers, right? You have your network. Like there isn't a CISO or any decision maker who's sitting in a bubble in Alaska saying, woe's me, who do I ask? What's the best technology that can solve this problem for me? There may be better framing should be, it's like there's the Gartner seal of approval or the Gartner level that each company needs to aim for. And then just like it's an FDA regulation that you need to pass all these hurdles. And then then you think, okay, well, submitting your product to the FDA also costs money. So let's just Gartner is the FDA equivalent for tech companies.
Exactly, but it doesn't have to be just them. Like at some companies where I didn't have money for Gartner or I didn't have resources for Gartner, I worked with other smaller analyst firms and I was able to achieve very similar levels of success. So when they would reach Gartner and Gartner would say, "Yeah, we never heard of those guys," but then they would go on my website and they would see, Frost and Sullivan puts us very, very high in the ranking, and some of the other Forrester or some of the other
Yeah. Yeah.
analyst companies, even some of them that you don't even know of. Um, you'd be surprised, but actually one of those really small boutique analyst firms with an analyst out of India actually helped me sell a business. So like we mentioned, some of the bigger industry leaders like a Checkpoint or a Palo Alto, Fortinet will decide to sort of cut off ties with Gartner and not pay for their subscription or not be part of
Yeah.
that connection. I don't think Gartner would be able to ignore them. I'm sure they're going to
Okay.
have to leave them in the report because ultimately Gartner is doing a service for the community. However, if they are less in touch with the company and they don't know about all their new features or what makes their firewall next generation again, it's just
Right.
an industry joke, but they'll sort of lose contact with the company and they won't know the answers, and so they'll probably just rank them lower sort of by default. And so
So are you perhaps saying that again, it's pay for play? So you have to keep on, if you want to keep on being in the top right of your quadrant, you need to keep on playing or paying.
so yes, in a sense. Now a lot of people get this wrong and they think that Gartner or some of these bigger analysts are solely pay for play, and it isn't the case, because you can actually do vendor briefings with Gartner analysts at no additional cost. When you pay for that sort of Gartner subscription, you have the ability to have that sort of ping pong conversation where you actually hear insights from the analyst, and things actually get a little bit more interesting. The conversation is a little bit more engaging. And so that helps you a lot to sort of get into that top of mind. And that obviously influences the amount of, I guess, influence that you have on the analysts and the work that they're writing, and ultimately the Magic Quadrant.
So, okay, another thing that really entertains me is when startups say, "Hey, we made it into the Gartner Magic Quadrant," and I'm like, "Which one?" Because at the time that we're talking, there are like 120 or even more magic quadrants. It's like we can have a Billy magic quadrant, we could have a Michael magic quadrant, we could have any magic quadrant, and we'd be very happy, right? And so that really peeves me as well, because they keep on generating more and more quadrants that it's like, okay, anyone can be on a goddamn quadrant nowadays. But then what I found really interesting is that not only do they have 120 quadrants, but here comes Michael Yehoshua and decides that he's going to create his own goddamn category. I mean, what? 120 isn't enough for you? You couldn't fit into one of those quadrants and one of those categories. You had to go and invent one of your own. What's
Yes,
that about?
yes, I did. Because uh,
What?
okay, so I looked at the Magic Quadrants before we had this discussion. I did some research. I actually was looking for ridiculous ones so I can actually point them out. And it turns out that there aren't many ridiculous ones. It turns out that many of them are pretty much fair and square. They're a little bit more generic. And
But
they
they're
actually
overlapping each other. They must be overlapping each other.
so yeah, there are some overlaps, but ultimately there are businesses in different categories. Like think about cybersecurity, right? It's one big category. I will not compare myself with a Checkpoint or a Palo Alto because we do different things within cybersecurity. So there's identity management and there's
Yeah.
firewalls and
No,
there's
no, I understand. But 120 categories.
yes.
120.
Yes, businesses expand and businesses get more granular. And what happens is sometimes you don't even know who you're competing against because people are trying to do different things and solve solutions in different ways.
It's like uh, maybe, like seriously, again, out of the 120 categories, okay, so you decided, okay, we're going to lay this to rest because you went ahead and did it, so it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. But I'm just saying, I can't remember really the last time that a company was so unique that they had zero competitors. And then their job is even more difficult because developing your own category, as you know, is damn hard.
Correct. And no, there are some solutions that actually do that. Now, it doesn't happen often. And I was advised against this many, many times, even by Gartner analysts. They told me, Michael, don't do it. You don't have a big budget. You don't have a big team. You don't have the resources. You're going to burn yourself out. Even Gong, the famous revenue intelligence company, when they were trying to launch their category, uh, Gartner told them to
Yeah.
basically to piss off.
I remember
They
that
told them,
story.
yeah, and they really wanted to create a category called revenue intelligence. Gartner told them, guys, you're just recording phone calls and maybe you're giving some insights. That's not revenue intelligence. You're just call recording. And Gong said, no, we're much bigger than that, and we're going to prove it to you. And they went and spent a fortune. We're talking a few $1 million on a Super Bowl ad and events where they made humongous booths and the keynote speaking slots and really activities all around the world, until Gartner had no choice and sort of had to bend the knee and say, you know what, revenue intelligence. And then they went ahead and made a report of revenue intelligence. My product marketing team started doing research on every possible potential competitor that we had. And then I narrowed it down based on who I think would compete with us the most closely. And then we hired competitive intelligence.
Okay.
We took board members of ours who were not affiliated with our company. They were like sort of like advisory board members, and we had them do research on those competitors, which meant getting on demo calls and hearing pricing, learning about how the product works. And these people worked as CISOs at very respectable organizations. And so they weren't detected. And then what they did was they went and put together a very comprehensive analysis. Obviously, they didn't share all the details because it's not really allowed. But whatever they were able to share, they were able to share with us. And then we did a full SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And really, this was an analysis for us to understand where do we fit within this marketplace. Where do we stand out better against the competitors, and where do we fail against these competiters? And
what kind of feedback were you looking for?
Really, I just wanted them to read my report. I couldn't give a shit less.
And they did.
Yeah, and they did, and they reviewed it. And then, some analysts told us, "You guys are nuts. This is never gonna go." Some analysts said this is very interesting, and then we found like champion analysts who said, "You know what? You might be onto something. This could be the future." And then we wanted to think about, all right, so what would we name this sort of category? Now, I had a name that my board told me that they wanted, and I started pitching the name with some different alternatives. And then the analyst said, oh, let's call it, CDPO, Cyber Defense Planning and Optimization. I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I can't believe you thought of that yourself.
Genius.
Yeah, it was. And really the analyst, uh, because, it was their idea, right? They added the last letter, the last word. They pushed it internally within Gartner. And then when they started speaking to those competitors, and obviously those competitors also had Gartner memberships because they really wanted to get noticed as well, they understood that, wait a second, we can actually be a part of something bigger. And then Gartner added, I think, 2 or 3 more companies to this report. And they went ahead and they published, well, I can't say my research, but they published their research based
research.
on
Yeah.
our research. Let's go back to the category creation. Ultimately, when everyone is winning and everyone's talking about the category and things are flourishing and people are talking, that's ultimately when the category gets legitimacy.
How long did that take?
Over a year, honestly.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but so is everything in marketing. I don't know anything in marketing that isn't a lot of work. I think let's try and crystallize when is it legitimate to create your own category versus let's say, bending your product to fit into another category. And I'm going to answer myself as a disclaimer beforehand. You need to be an experienced marketer. I think that an unexperienced marketer with an unsupportive team, management team, have got no chance, and they shouldn't even go down that road. But let's say that you're an experienced marketer. You've got the support of the management who might think you're a bit crazy, but are giving you the benefit of the doubt. What is the ingredient? What is the thing that you need to have in order to say, yeah, it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile for me to go out and invent my own category as opposed to sort of like bending or trying to fit into another one.
Okay, so number one, you really need to understand your product. If you don't understand your product and you think that you're something versus what the market says that your product is, you can be in a lot of trouble. So know your product really, really well. If your product is similar to other products on the market and you're just doing something in a better way, you do not need a new category.
Good. Yes. Okay. I can understand that one. Patience of a saint. Like as you said, it's so much hard work, but so is many things in marketing. But I think that really going after that one to like holy grail for so long, you need to really believe in it because it is such a lot of hard work.
Correct. It's not just patient. It's not just your own patience. It's also the patience of your CEO and your leadership team.
Yeah.
Because you can be patient. You have that belief. You know it's going to happen, or you know that there is going to be some change. But CEOs and management who have the pressure of the investors always on their necks, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Come on, press the gas," and they come to you and they're like, "So what's going on? What's going on?" And this thing took us a year,
Yep.
maybe even more. And
Yeah.
if the CEO would have been on my case every single day asking me, all right, so when's the category happening? I probably would have just given up.
Michael, let's pretend that you're about to land a job as the CMO of a startup that's just raised $10 million, and you're putting together your marketing budget. And you know how the way I've spoken about building a budget, a marketing budget, is that you have the stuff that you need to have, your foundation blocks, and then you have the nice to haves, and then you inflate the numbers in order to have some a couple of zeros knocked off. Is Gartner part of the foundations, or is it part of the nice to have?
It's part of the foundation. It's not part of the nice to have. I can tell you over the years, when we did not have this sort of budget, not just for Gartner, but for other analysts, it was very, very difficult for us to get recognized with the higher circles, especially if you're selling to enterprise. It's sort of like the stamp of approval that you have for your business. But it's very, very important, in my opinion, if you want to go ahead and get recognized. You raise $10 million, you have budget to spend $50,000 a year or $60,000 a year on a seat for Gartner. Work with the analysts, understand how this side of the business works, and you would be surprised at the power of third-party recognition.
Michael, not the answer I wanted, but thank you.
Well, it's the truth.
Okay, it's your truth, and you
It's
get to fight for your truth, Michael. You just fight it.
okay.
Michael, been a pleasure. Huge thank you for joining me and for sharing your story. I'm hopefully our brothers and sisters out there will learn from this and will flood your inbox with questions.
Sure, anytime. Thank you so much, Billy. Thanks for having me. And happy to discuss other cool things that I've done with analysts over the years, including how I used analyst relations to make an exit. So,
Oh, nice one. Okay, until next time. Ciao.
thank you. Bye.